So I'm really excited here to be with you, Tanny. Last week I just talked about how my story of leaving a toxic relationship and building myself up afterwards. And I count myself super lucky that I didn't have kids in that process, so that I was able to just think about myself. And so I'm really happy to have you here. Tanny is just one of those incredible people. She was in a very toxic relationship and in a very strict religious environment as well. True. And so add on all that extra guilt and restrictions. But she managed to get herself out of there and is just one of the most beautiful examples I have of being a strong, independent woman and mother and showing a great example for her daughters. And so I'm, really excited to talk to you.
That's so sweet.
Do you think you could share a little bit about your story, set the scene for us?
Okay, it's a long story, but I'm gonna try to make it short. So basically, I was born and raised in a Jewish Orthodox home. I got married at 17. I wasn't forced, but it was my own choice. And then I got married at 17. I had my first daughter at 19. And then my second one at 23. It was very unconscious. When I look back, I kind of feel like I'm happy I did it unconscious at that point in my life, because I don't know if at this point, with the conscious that I have, knowing what the world is, how much work it takes to be a mom, how much it triggers you and it makes you work on yourself, I don't know if I would have had kids at this point, honestly. Yeah, it's not a joke. So I was married for 10 years. I was married to someone who I thought was Prince Charming. Honestly, it was like Barbie and Ken and their two little blonde daughters. And it was always my fantasy to stay in that marriage, honestly. I really got married thinking it's going to be, happily ever after. Mm-hmm. And I did everything to fight for it, to fight for my dream, for the potential that I saw mostly. But it just, sometimes you got to realize that, you can't be doing the work alone, and that the lesson that I had to learn was to set boundaries, not to fix people, and all of that we can get more into detail. So I got divorced when I was 27, and now I just turned 31.
Yeah.
I've been so happy, so in peace, feeling more content and complete than ever after a lot of work.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see you, just the way you balance everything, the mom life and your gym and eating well and, taking self-care and things like that. But I know it's been a really long journey. So can we go back a little bit to when did you start to realize that he wasn't Prince Charming and this wasn't the dream relationship?
It was literally like 3 days after I got married.
Okay.
I mean, with the conscience that I had when I was 17, I started living little disappointments, I had this expectation of what marriage was, what everything was, and then it started going down slowly. Of course, I didn't realize I was in a toxic relationship until years and years later, but I always knew something was off. I was like, is he bipolar? What's wrong with him? Because it makes no sense. One day he wakes up happy, one day he loves me, another moment he hates me, one day he can hurt me so bad, another day he can literally buy me everything and make me so happy. And in toxic relationships, you must know the highs are so high and the lows are so fucking low. And so you live for the highs. Yeah. And actually you also live for the lows, because after a low you're going to have a really good high.
Wow.
So unconsciously I was even waiting, okay, so it's coming, it's happening. The low is happening, but there's going to be a rainbow after. That didn't last long, Yeah.
And it kind of makes you feel like it's up to you. If you do things right, you'll get the high.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, I'm an empath, so I feel like I was in a very people pleaser behavior where, I would forgive everything really quickly. I had no self-worth. I didn't know how to set boundaries. There's people think that, being a good person is sucking up everything. It's not true. You got to learn to stand up for yourself. You got to learn to know your worth and how much you want to tolerate, what should be tolerated, what's normal, what's not. I feel like I was so young, I didn't know. And also the abuse that I lived was so consistent. It was so everyday that you kind of forget reality. You live in this bubble where you think it's just normal. Whatever you're living, it's just normal. Oh, so this is my routine. He's going to yell at me, and then he's going to do this, and he's going to say these words. And you hear it so often it's not even a red flag to hear, a bad word or, suffering any sort of abuse. This is why it's very important that whenever we see the first red flag about anything, about someone, even if it's not a relationship, if it's just like a service, a person, the first time you allow something, I feel like it's like the door for these people to feel like they can continuously treat you that way, and it's up to you to set that boundary and to either say something, walk away, or whatever you need to do with that person. Depends on who that person is, Sometimes it's a parent, sometimes you can't really walk away.
Yeah. When you started to see some of these things, were you able to share them with your family or friends or anything like that?
So I had really almost no relationship with my parents at that point because of our differences when it came to religion. And also, when I was a teenager, again, religion, I wanted different things. And so the trust kind of broke there with my parents. And I decided to get married that young because I wanted this ticket to get out. And I saw him as my opportunity to just be free,
I see.
And I went from one cage to the next cage. So I definitely didn't have a relationship with my parents, and that was a very big factor that I didn't have because I would suck up everything, and and he would know that I had no one to run to. And it was actually his threat. Oh, you're going back to your parents. Like if it was like the worst thing in the world. And now if anyone tells me that, I would be like, sure, I'll run to my parents.
Yeah, because you've done a lot of work in the years since to rebuild that relationship with your parents. I went through something very similar, I think, because I was in a foreign country and I didn't have a relationship with my mom. I knew she would judge everything, so I just didn't share with her. And I think that played a big role in how I got into that situation, because you don't have anyone telling you, wait, that's wrong.
And you deep down know it's wrong, so that's why you don't share it. Because if it was so normal and accepted, you would be posting it, you would be talking about it like, oh, I just got hit it. Like, it's just like if it was normal, but no, it's not.
How was it that you eventually found the strength to take action and leave?
Okay, so being very honest, I feel like I had a very big part of my 20s very blocked in my mind. And blocked because of the suffering, blocked because of the abuse, because of many reasons, but also because I feel like I was sleeping, literally unconscious. And so then I started doing somatic therapy, which is basically...
While you were in the relationship?
Yeah, which is basically with your body. So I feel like if your mind is not conscious, maybe at least you can start connecting with your body, and then things start flowing after that. That's how it went for me. And so I feel like when I went to this person, she was like, you're not even breathing, like I was, my entire life I was like holding everything inside, holding my marriage together, being a single mom in a relationship, because trust me, it was like having a third child with Down syndrome, like literally even worse. Like, I don't know. That's what my marriage was. And that's why being a single mom wasn't such a terrifying idea for me, because it's not like I had the support and no, he was really and like actually disturbing my education, So yeah, I started doing somatic therapy. I started doing the work physically, because it's like you don't have to do anything but feel. It would be like massages on my body, it would be things with my chakras, it would be meditating, it would be listening to the frequencies that move things in you, even if you don't want to. It just, you don't have to really do much.
What was your intention at that time? Like, you already knew?
I had no clue. I think my soul knew, but I don't know. I had no intention. I wanted to go to therapy, which actually I did go to like psychological therapy during my marriage, because I was constantly suffering. And it's kind of like I knew I wanted to get out, but it was like a matter of time. But I was just like, I think that what really, really was stopping me from getting out was money. That was holding me back like crazy, because I was a housewife my entire marriage. I didn't even finish high school. I got married at 17. I dropped school. I get married. Then I literally dedicated my marriage to shop. Shop and spend money to fill up a void, because I was having the worst time of my life. And well, I had nothing of my own, no relationship with my family. So that's very scary when you have two kids. If I would have been alone, maybe I would have been like, okay, I'm starting from scratch, it's just me. But when I got divorced and I faced whatever I had to face, it was crazy, because some days I didn't have literally money to feed my kids. So it was definitely a very big decision. And he knew that. He always would say, where are you going? You're going nowhere. Your family doesn't love you. What are you gonna get money from? I'm not gonna give you money. And it was very scary. He knew that. But he never thought I would have the strength to actually leave, you know? I feel like until this day, he probably is shocked that I actually left.
How did you set up yourself financially to leave? Or did you take a leap of faith?
You know, it's funny because many people ask me, like, okay, how do I get prepared? I want to get divorced. What did you do? And it's like, dude, I think that if I would have known what I went through, I would have never gone divorced. So it's like part of like what I was telling JJ before, that I'm an Aries, I'm a little bit impulsive. In this case, my being impulsive was the best decision because it was just a jump. And then I had to face everything. And I never in a million years expected it to be as bad as it was. But now that I look back, I love my story. I'm proud of my story the way it was. Everything makes so much sense. Everything had to happen that way for me to grow, become independent, understand the worth of money, understand how to make money. Because I had no clue. I was 27. I never made a penny in my life. I didn't know anything about money.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I've been able to see a glimpse of this, even though we met afterwards. But I've seen how you've been trying things and growing and learning and really reshaping your relationship with money. This was the difference in our toxic relationships, because mine was I paid for everything, and hers everything was paid for. But both were traps.
They were both people pleasers. Yeah.
Yes, and so
I mean, I paid with my body, with my worth, with everything, you know, so.
Yes, absolutely. But what I mean by that is to say that it was like almost, it was a big barrier to leave. You had a very lush life with him, and so it was giving up a lot.
I think that few days into being separated, like I got separated for divorce. I didn't get separated to fix things, you know. I was so sure once I made a decision. Few days into it, even though I started living the consequences of my decision, I felt so much peace. And that peace that I feel today, or even a few days after, even though I wasn't healed, is priceless. There is no money that would compensate that peace. So, oh my God, giving up all these luxuries and all that abundant life that I had, it was just money. It was just money. Money comes and goes. Like now I so don't miss that.
Also, I remember you sharing things with me about how he even kind of pitted your family against you. In the last few months or stuff, he had like encouraged you to try an open relationship so he could accumulate evidence that he'd brought then to your parents and family to make it seem like you had been sleeping around or something like that.
Yeah, so this is something that I didn't even realize that was happening, that after that, people helped me see how manipulative that was. I'm not going to get into details of like why that happened, but basically instead of fixing the relationship, he suggested for me to find pleasure and fun out there, which was very hurtful for me in that moment because all I wanted was to make things work with him.
Wow.
That was
you were
my
still
dream.
trying.
Until the last day, my hope was for him to wake up one day and be like, I'm sorry, I love you, I want to fight for you, I want to stop treating you that way. That was my dream. Wow. And I would have a little glimpse of that. In every fight there was like, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry with no action is literally trash because those were just words. And I was really basing everything and staying for words and not action. And that's something that actually, with my boyfriend after my marriage, which is a relationship that I got into pretty much right after my divorce, which was very similar to my marriage in some ways. Again, a toxic cycle until I actually dropped out and healed completely from this whole, pattern, which was the same thing. It was me relying on words, and the actions had no congruence with the words. So actions, guys, before words.
So what are things that you do now to make sure of that? Because I mean, there will always be words. What do you?
I think that a real man is someone who is committed to his word. So you're gonna see that from the beginning. It's like literally someone who tells you like, I'll pick you up at 6 and doesn't show up or cancels last minute, and then you can start seeing, little actions as you date someone, as you get to know someone, how their words don't match their actions. If they promise you something, they'll do it, from the little things to the big things. Those people who remember those like tiny things that you tell them, I don't know. And then I don't know. I feel like these days when I talk to someone, I have a conversation, it's just this energy where I know you're lying, or I know you're not an authentic person. So I don't know. I feel like it's a whole conversation about how I scan people these days.
Yeah, okay. So what are some of the other things? What are your new criteria that you check?
Oh my God, I feel like it goes beyond words at this point. I feel like it's a feeling.
Yeah.
I feel like...
In a way, that's why we need to go through these shitty experiences, because in a way it can't be taught. You have to feel it. You have to know the pain to be able to recognize it in the future.
Many times I've thought of like putting into words many things, and it just doesn't come out in words, but in action, it works. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't really date much. I haven't really dated since those two relationships. I mean, here and there, but but my energy is honestly open. I just feel like I became so picky, but not in like this arrogant way. Honestly, it comes from like I'm in so much peace. Yeah. I'm in so much contentment with my life that it's gonna take a lot for someone to move me or to get me out of my routine to go ahead and meet them.
Yeah.
So if I really got to that stage with you, it's because you meet a lot of the things that I value. And then it's like easier to just dive in and actually get to know the person and their goals and their dreams and their story mostly. Because I feel like your story says a lot about you. Because we could have gone through the same. Because I actually know girls who got divorced, went through a toxic relationship, but the way they tell their story is still from a victim place. Maybe me, even like 3 or 4 years ago, I would have like told you my story as like, oh, this happened to me and they did this to me and poor me. I wasn't like so much in victim, honestly, once I got out, but I do know people, I'm sure you do, who are still like, oh, and this happened to me, he was such a shitty person. Like, I don't talk bad about my ex. Yeah. Honestly, I have nothing but compassion towards someone like that. I mean, you have to be in crucial pain to treat another human being the way I was treated. And I had to be completely unconscious and had zero self-worth in order to tolerate that type of behavior.
Amen. Yes.
So, so I feel like at this point I have no regrets. I have no resentment. I have nothing but love and compassion to people like that. So
I love this because these are literally the same points that I covered in my video, which you haven't seen yet. But yeah, it was like, I don't blame anyone. I don't blame my ex. I don't believe in toxic people. Just that we're dealing with our insecurities and our traumas and stuff, and when we don't face that, we hurt other people. Yeah. And as long as we're blaming them, then we're not focusing on ourselves, what we do to attract it or let this happen to us. And you can be totally justified, right? They do shitty things, but that's not going to help your healing to be focused on them, what they did wrong, instead of on ourselves. And so now, what does life look like for you? What is like dating? What are you looking for anything? Are you like, what do you want? How do you view the world now?
When it comes to dating, to finding a partner, I mean,
or life, I guess.
I mean, when it comes to a partner, like, of course, like when I sit down, I dream because I have like the Lulu side of me that's very feminine, and I'm like, of course, I would love like a partner and whatever, but I don't know, I'm very down to earth at this point, and I also know that if it doesn't happen and I just get to have these little romantic experiences in my life that are not fully committed, I'm also going to be fine with it. I feel like I'm building such a beautiful life for me and my girls, and whenever I visualize my future, there's never a man in it, and I promise you that I've digged into it to see if it's like fear, rejection, because some people are like so angry with men or so scared of commitment after going through these kind of situations that are like, they're like trying to push it away. And like there's also this like women empowerment that comes from a toxic place where it's like, I don't need a man, but I do feel like I don't need a man right now, but it's not from a place of like anger or resentment or fear. It really is because I feel like I found myself. I have myself. I also healed the relationship with my parents, and that having my dad's masculine energy in my life, my brothers, really, really fills up a very big, I guess, need that we all have to have masculine energy in our lives. So I feel like that has been huge, you know, also on how I view men to date. Like once you have your dad's support, you have his presence, his approval, his acceptance, which is the things that I didn't have when I chose a man like that. it's like it makes me feel like I'm not dying to meet like toxic men. It doesn't fill me up. It doesn't feel like it used to feel like an adrenaline. It used to feel like something fun. It used to feel like something like I needed. Now I don't feel like I need it anymore, and it's been huge that I healed the relationship with my dad too, you know?
Yeah, so it's not something that you have to like remind yourself, be like, oh, no, he's toxic, like, don't text him back. It's
No,
just
it's
like you're not
gross.
interested.
Yeah, I don't find it attractive. I used to find it so attractive.
Yeah.
Like the whole game, like the chasing game, and like,
Oh,
let me
he's not
block you,
responding.
let me block you, and then unblock you, and let me post a story to make you mad, and all those things. Of course, I've been through that, you know, and today it's just like, ew, like, so not worth my time, you know?
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's beautiful that you have your beautiful daughters, so you don't have that rush, like, I need to find someone if I want to have kids or freeze my eggs or anything. Like, you
Yeah,
can...
that is a very big advantage that I have. Honestly, I'm not closed off to anything, but I don't really see myself having more kids, although I'm always telling myself I'm open, because I have no clue. I'm also very traumatized, honestly, of doing things alone, so it feels like very heavy, like, oh my God, having another kid, like, what's going to happen?
I see.
But I do think that I'm sure that with the right person and actually someone who feels like a team, it would be a complete different experience, which I'm not closed off, because that would probably heal everything that I'm still going through as a single mom, you know, in a way. But I'm still not looking for it either. Like, I feel like I'm very young still, and I'm very open. And if anything shows up in my life that aligns with who I am today and someone who can add, I will be open to it. But I'm also not looking for, I'm not on dating apps. I'm not like desperate. I'm not like asking people to set me up. Like, not every man I meet, I'm like, I just want to think, I visualize a future with him, because I used to.
Yeah.
I used to. Right now I'm in a place where I'm in peace about it.
Yeah. And to give a little more inspiration, because another area that I super admire you in is like mom power, like how you manage, you balance life and everything. And I know you get questions about this all the time, but what would you say are some of the things that you've done to really make that a possibility? Like, what would be the number one or top 3 things that you would suggest to other single moms to find that balance?
I think that I've always been disciplined. I feel like I was blessed with that genetically, because my dad is extremely disciplined. And my mom was a perfectionist. So those things are not great. Like, I've experienced the dark side of being a perfectionist and being too hard on myself and all of those things. But I feel like at this point in my life, I've learned to take the good out of it. And I'm telling you, like, since I was a mom, like, since day one, I had to be able to juggle and balance and please everyone. So I definitely is something that I learned pretty early, to multitask and be very, very organized. I've always been into having time for my own. Like, I don't think I've ever gone through a stage where I neglected myself as a mom. Never went through that. Always, like, took care of myself in different ways, though. I never, like, it was a different type of priority, you know. Now these days it's the healthy kind. So definitely, like, being completely organized. For example, like, I used to think back then that going to sleep late when my kids would go to sleep, it would be my time for me, and then I would wake up super tired and wake up at the same time as they wake up, straight to chaos, straight to getting my cortisol straight up high and starting the day with chaos, with humans needing you, which was like, to me, it's not the best way to start.
Yeah.
And then I implemented the whole waking up at 5 a.m., which allows me to have like at least an hour and a half before I have to wake them up. And that has changed my life, because I go to sleep early and I wake up and I have this silence, and I feel like there's like this magic in the air early in the morning versus at night. I'm not a night person. I don't like the night. When it starts getting dark, I'm like a baby. I just want to go to sleep. It just, my body feels like I'm done. Yeah. And I function way better in the morning. So I just try to be very productive, very organized. And I think that I got to a point where my self-love is so deep. It's that I don't neglect myself. Like, my habits just have to happen. They just have to work. I was also thinking about it today, actually, that I became very flexible with certain things also when it comes to mom life. Like, I used to be way more overprotective or think that I need to watch my kids all the time. And maybe if someone would be watching me from the outside, they'd be like, oh my God, she's letting them have too much screen time, or letting them be in the pool on their own while she like goes I don't care at this point. Like, I feel like I trust my intuition, my kids a lot. As time goes by, they become older, more independent. Like, the bad years are kind of like staying behind. This is an easier stage. So I prioritize myself a lot. I used to deal with mom guilt.
Yeah, I was just going to ask.
And honestly, of course, I still deal with mom guilt, but honestly, the more I prioritize myself, the better mom I am. No question.
Okay.
No question. The more I travel on my own, the more I give myself time for retreats, the more time I give myself in the morning. Also something that I've implemented is quality versus quantity.
Okay.
Like, instead of being with my kids 8 hours a day, being in the worst mood because I'm not getting time for myself, I rather have like little breaks. In the morning, I have my morning routine, which I love, which is like either meditating, working out, work, and then I come back and I feel zero guilt. I know that I'm working for them, for their future, because a mom who's like, working on herself is going to be a better mom and a better example and a better energy and a better frequency and a better everything, and also working financially for them. So I feel zero guilt, honestly, at this point. I used to feel guilt, and I'm sure many people do. Mm-hmm. It's very normal. I think a mom who doesn't feel guilt is weird.
Yeah. Well, how did you make that switch? Was it just...
I think it was over time. I think it was like allowing myself to experience and seeing the difference. Like, how do I feel prioritizing myself versus not? And like, now that I've been here in this trip, like, I've had moments where I'm like, oh my God, I need my space.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. But then it's like, okay, I'm going to be more flexible. Go downstairs to the pool, when maybe back in the day I would be like, oh my God, I need to be watching them. I just watch them from the balcony, you know?
See. Okay.
And I like, for example, I trust my oldest a little bit more these days that she's 11 and she can watch Stella, Things like that, where I became a little bit more easygoing when it comes to their schedules,
so
and things like
age helps
that.
too,
Yeah,
I
for
guess.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that gives hope for sure. Because I know for sure, not personally, but from other friends, that's so heavy, and I know that's something I'm going to have to deal with when you're a perfectionist and you have all these ideas of how you want to raise your children, but obviously you can't be perfect all the time.
Yeah.
Are there other ways that you have changed how you are a mom now that you, like, from when you were in the toxic relationship and when you were unconscious versus how you're conscious?
Oh, totally. Now I see my kids as mirrors. Like, whatever they trigger me is something that I need to work on, especially my oldest.
Can you give an example?
Well, she's a mirror of me, and many times I hear her say things that I would tell my mom, and then sometimes I stop and think, and I think to myself, like, my natural reaction is literally what my mom would respond to me. Not because she's my mom, because I feel like that's what a parent does.
Yeah.
To defend yourself, or to over-explain yourself, or to just respond like, I'm your mom and that's it, and don't ask questions. Or that's like a natural reaction that parents have. And it's like, did that ever help us? It didn't. So it's like, okay, what would Tanny, when she was 11, would have liked to hear, And it's just like, you just want it to be heard and accepted and loved for your ideas and your stupidities at that point. And sometimes it's very hard. Also, something huge that I've learned through the past few years is that when my kids are mad and mean and complaining and ranting, which sometimes it's extremely painful, especially as a single mom, because sometimes you literally give your entire life to make them happy and they're still not happy. And it's very painful, because it's like, one thing I can tell you about parenting that you should know, it is the most ungrateful job ever. Like, you almost get no reward for it. Maybe later on when they're able to like speak and realize what you did for them. But while they're growing, you're the worst person ever. Every day, you're their enemy, no matter how much you do. Yeah. You are the meanest. The other moms are always better than you, especially as I approach teenager years. Yeah. So it's very hard. You have to really stay in your center and know that what you're doing is enough. Stay very aligned with your core values, no matter if people around you are practicing their parenting in a different way, and your kid is gonna come and be like, but my friend is getting this, and their parents are like, you're so mean for doing this and that. And it's like, well, you don't know, because you're not a mom. But like, imagine you took your kid to get a shot that was good for their health, And the kid is crying like, what are you doing to me? Look what the doctor is doing to me. But you know that what they're doing is for their benefit. And in the moment you feel their pain, but you're not trying to save them from that because you brought them and paid for it, literally. So same thing like when I got divorced, when, like, for example, my oldest would literally have breakdowns like, why did you broke the family and look what you did. You don't understand what I had to deal with. And she's extremely expressive and she's extremely verbal and she could be very hurtful with her words. And she would constantly say how I broke the family and her dreams and how she can't spend time with her dad and this and that. And I would have to deal with it, but I was so sure about my decision, like the shot. I knew this was good for her and that she wouldn't know now, but she's gonna feel the benefits later on.
That's
so
huge.
Same thing with dealing with teenager years and anything that happens during parenting. I feel like I can get the meanest comments from them, but as long as I have my alone time to sit down and reflect and know who I am, what kind of parenting I'm practicing, what kind of values I'm practicing with myself that I am obviously teaching to them, no matter what the world around me does, you know, I'm sure about what I'm doing with my kids. And I think it's extremely important. This is why it's extremely important to heal yourself, build yourself, and constantly have time for yourself, because if you don't have this pause at least once a day, in the morning and in the night, to get in touch with yourself, you will be easily triggered and easily, how do you say, like you would easily doubt when your kid is like, but my friend's mom bought her this and that, and why you... But if you just did a practice in the morning, or even if you did it yesterday or 2 days ago, you're constantly journaling, you're constantly in touch with your goals, you're constantly feeling in peace and contentment about who you are and what you're practicing, because obviously what you practice is what you end up teaching, you know, then the world could be falling apart and all the other moms can be doing whatever, but you know that what you're doing is the right thing.
Yeah. So
know?
Is that the thing that you think has helped you the most, like to not react in the moment? Because to not repeat the things that your mom said to you.
Yes, a lot of empathy, a lot of compassion. And so, one thing I got kind of lost in this conversation, but let me go back. When I get from, for example, my oldest, the meanest thing as a teenager, a natural reaction of our parents would be like, go to your room. You're so disrespectful. You don't talk to me like that. Who are you to like, right? I feel like the world, that's how they react to teenagers. And the hardest thing I had to practice is to literally sometimes not talk and give a hug, because it's literally like hurt people. Yeah. Of course my daughter is hurt.
And does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it works in this moment. Of course, it definitely brings down their nervous system, because it's like a hug. There's nothing better for the nervous system that's like, you know, agitated and alterated. But I feel like, of course, my daughter is hurt. She has her dad's, like the wounds that her dad has caused her, and me too. And they're constantly happening because he's not anywhere to be healed. But I think that at the end of the day, she is a wounded child. And hurt people. And those hurt people need love. And sometimes when they're saying the meanest things, like practicing love when it's like the last thing you want to do, it's like, just shut up. You just want to scream like, shut up, you ungrateful little... Like, those are the words that come up in my mind. And it's like shutting that... But that would only happen if you practice mindfulness. Because if your nervous system is not regulated, there is no way you can help your child regulate themselves. That has been huge. You know, and so giving love in these hard times has been one of my biggest challenges lately that I've really worked on.
Do you feel like now she understands why you did it, or is there still blame that you tore the family apart?
There's constant manipulation from his part, like constant reminders, but I think that I'm not scared of it, because deep down I feel like when you're doing the right thing, when you're a good person, when you have good energy, good intentions, you feel it. And if my child was in the middle of an emergency, I think that I would be her emergency contact. I think that at the end of the day, kids feel, even if they don't know the truth. I don't think they know at this point if they have to pick sides, who's the bad one, who's the good one. There is no such thing as good or bad. They can love both, respect both. There's things to admire about him. He has strengths also. But I think that deep down they know mommy's always going to be there. Mommy's always going to show up. Mommy's there when we're sick. And daddy's only there when it's convenient. So kids feel that even if you don't say a word.
How much time do they spend with him?
It's not consistent. Whenever he feels like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you set any boundaries on him and things like that?
Not so much because he's not very present.
Okay.
And I feel like once I disattached the whole financial part, meaning like I stopped expecting completely, that has changed the world completely. I feel way more in control of my education, of what I'm doing with my kids and everything. Because it's like, dude, I don't need you. So like, what role do you actually play here? Like, you have almost no rights in a way, even though there are legal rights. But of course I set boundaries. If it doesn't work for us, for him to just show up and take them for the weekend, then I just say no. I feel comfortable saying no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's, oh my goodness. I mean, all of this explains how you are the person that you are today. Because I think the people who've gone through some of the hardest things, like that's what makes you the strongest and makes you the most actually at peace with yourself. Because you've had to
Work on
discover
yourself.
it.
And it's been a gift. I'm honestly nothing but thankful for him because he was one of my biggest teachers of my darkness. I have compassion for myself because it was done in a very painful way. But some people don't move until there is pain. And I had to really hit rock bottom in a very painful way and go through very hard experiences until I actually opened my eyes and learned. And some people have it easier.
What are some things that you're doing for your daughters to kind of protect them, strengthen them against falling into the same situation?
Trust me, that's one of my biggest fears when it comes to parenting.
I can imagine.
And I do know that especially lacking a masculine energy, which is what happened to me in a way, even though my dad was always present, but he was not, I didn't have a relationship with him. He was zero accepting of me. I didn't really have a relationship with him. And because of that, one of the reasons I picked such a horrible partner was because I didn't have a healthy masculine energy. So of course it's one of my biggest fears. At the same time, I just trust life. Like if they have to fall into a toxic relationship, they will, and then they'll learn. But I don't think it's ever going to be as bad as mine, because I've already broke with a lot of patterns, like generational, that they probably will have toxic experiences because of the ones that they have with their dad. But at least I feel confident that the more I heal myself, the more I'll be able to support them. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
And I guess if you really maintain this communication with them, like if they enter into that, like they can talk to you.
That is my hope. This is why I've been practicing the giving love even when they're mad. Because I really don't want them to ever feel like I can't talk to my mom, because I really feel like that's all they have. They don't really have their dad, even though he's physically a few blocks away from where we live, but he's not really available. They don't really have a connection with him. He's not a person who can have a connection with other people. So at the end of the day, this is very fragile. All they have is me, and it takes a lot of strength to not let these little interactions and, not take personal the hurtful words and blames that I get from them, because like I said, he's constantly manipulating, and they come back from a weekend and they're like, oh, daddy said this, daddy's better because he did this and that, and you're just like, and you're always like this, and you're always stressed, and daddy's always happy, and you yell at us, and and it's like, dude, like if you know what I have to go through to be a single mom, like of course I have
hung out with you on a weekend in Cancun or whatever. Like,
exactly.
No wonder he wasn't stressed.
Exactly. And I think about it, like if I had to be a mom for a weekend once a month or once every 2 months, I would be the
We're
best
gonna go
mom
shopping
ever.
all weekend.
Best mom ever. So it's very hard. And this is, again, you have to go back to your core, to yourself. Connect with yourself, remind yourself where you're at, what you do. No one else can do that for you. No one else can take away this mom guilt that you feel. No one else can remind yourself what you've done, what you've gone through, because no one else knows what you've gone through, what you put up with, the sacrifices, the lessons, everything. So it's always going back to yourself.
Is that enough? Just going back to, do you have like friend groups that...
Of course, support system. Yes. Yeah, my parents are my biggest support system now. Before they weren't. And yeah, of course I have friends that I can rely on. But I think that now I rely mostly on myself. I used to remember like those times where I would send you a million voice notes? That was like my stage
miss
where
that.
podcast.
Yes.
So I had a stage
30-minute
Right.
audio notes.
So I had a stage where I wasn't close to my parents, and that was my support system, being able to vent to a few friends and send them like long voice notes of what I was feeling, and sometimes re-listen to myself and kind of like
Sometimes that's enough.
that literally, yeah. Now I have my parents, and every time I feel like I have
beautiful.
more, I got myself more and more. That helps a lot.
Yeah, so beautiful. Well, thank you so much for those insights. I mean, I hope I don't have to go through some of that, but I know I will face a lot of that, you know, even in a relationship. The mom guilt is, yeah, that's going to be huge.
You call me and I'll remind you
yes,
everything you're doing.
I'm so glad, so grateful. Even though you're younger than me, you're so much wiser beyond your years. But I know in particular, I have a couple people in mind specifically with this conversation, and I know how helpful it's going to be to them. So thank you so much for taking the time to share.
I'm so happy to be able to help. I
you.
love you. I'm so happy to be here in your new home.
And now we'll put the subscribe video from the girls so you can see just how cute they are.
Subscribe to Tanny's channel.